Slippy Sodor. It was a very special day on the Island of Sodor. The Mr. Bubbles clown show was coming to town. Mr. Bubbles was famous. He could blow the biggest bubbles ever seen. All the engines were happy and excited, except for Thomas. He had a cracked funnel and had to puff to the steamworks for repairs. At the steamworks, everything was huffing and puffing and steaming and wheeshing. Everything except Thomas. He waited sadly on the turntable for Victor to arrive. Thomas didn't like it when he needed repairs. It meant waiting inside and not having fun out on his branch line.
Don't look so miserable, Thomas. We'll find you a nice spare funnel and have you out and about in no time. Kevin, let's see what we have for our good friend Thomas.
Yes, boss. Coming right up. Sorry, boss. It was a slip of the hook.
Oh, Kevin. Well, that won't do at all, my friend. This funnel is much too small. Kevin, let's try something a little larger.
Yes, boss. Right away, boss.
Oh, suffering Sodor, Kevin. What are you doing?
Sorry, boss. It was a slip of the hook.
Yes, we know, Kevin. We know.
Try this one for size, Thomas.
No. This one is too large.
We only have one more spare funnel, boss. I'll be back in 2 toots of a whistle.
Let's hope it's a good fit, my friend, or you'll be here for quite a while.
Here it is, Thomas. Oops, sorry, Thomas. It was a slip of the hook.
I know, Kevin, I know.
Magnificent! A perfect fit.
This funnel makes me feel silly.
Not at all, my friend. It's splendid. It will help you puff very well until your old funnel is fixed. Now, chuff along. I hear that Mr. Bubbles has a very special for you at Brendam Docks.
Thomas chuffed into Brendan. He was very unhappy. Mr. Bubbles was waiting. He was very happy to see Thomas.
Hello, Thomas.
Mr. Bubbles has a very important job for you, Thomas.
This is my very special bubble liquid. It makes the biggest bubbles you have ever seen. I need it for my show this afternoon. Please take it to Knapford Station.
So Thomas backed up slowly and carefully to the flatbed and was coupled up.
Now, you mustn't spill any of the liquid, Thomas. Puff slowly and carefully.
Yes, sir.
We'll meet you at Knapford.
Then James chuffed up.
Hello, Thomas. Ha! That's a funny funnel.
Thomas didn't want a funny funnel. He wanted his old funnel back, and he didn't like James laughing at his funny funnel. So Thomas pumped his pistons and raced away as quickly as he could. He forgot all about going slowly and carefully. Later, Thomas stopped at a crossing. He saw Gordon.
Hello, Thomas. That's a funny funnel.
Thomas didn't want a funny funnel. He wanted his old funnel back, and he didn't like Gordon laughing at his funny funnel. So Thomas pumped his pistons and raced away from Gordon as quickly as he could. He wasn't thinking about going slowly and carefully. Bubble liquid splished out and sploshed onto the road, but Thomas didn't notice. The fat controller was driving Mr. Bubbles on the road. Then there was trouble. The car skidded and skated right into a muddy ditch. Thomas raced on. He stopped at a signal and saw Henry in a siding.
Hello, Thomas. Oh, that's a funny funnel.
Thomas didn't want a funny funnel. He wanted his old funnel back, and he didn't like Henry laughing at his funny funnel. So Thomas pumped his pistons and raced away from Henry as quickly as he could. He still wasn't thinking about going slowly and carefully. The Fat Controller and Mr. Bubbles drove toward a bridge.
Slow down, Thomas! You're spilling my bubble liquid!
But Thomas didn't hear them. More bubble liquid splished out and sploshed onto the road. The Fat Controller's car skidded and skated right into a haystack. But Thomas didn't notice. He went even faster. And so did the Fat Controller and Mr. Bubbles. Thomas didn't see them, but he did see a red signal. Thomas put on his brakes. More bubble liquid splished out and sploshed onto the road. The Fat Controller's car skidded and skated right into a pond. But Thomas was too worried about his funny funnel to notice. He raced on towards Knapford. At last, Thomas puffed into Knapford just as the Fat Controller and Mr. Bubbles arrived. The Fat Controller was very cross.
Thomas, you were going much too fast. The special bubble liquid splished and splashed out of the tank.
And now the tank is empty. And it's almost time for my show to start. The children will be very disappointed.
Thomas felt terrible.
I'm sorry, sir.
The only special bubble liquid left is at Brendam Docks. Now there isn't time to pick it up before the show.
Yes, there is. I'm sure I can puff to Brendam and back in time for your show.
Very well, Thomas. But this time, you must be careful.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
And Thomas chuffed quickly away. Soon, Thomas arrived back at Brendam Docks. A new tank of bubble liquid was loaded onto his flatbed, and Thomas puffed carefully away. Thomas saw Edward at a crossing.
Hello, Thomas. That's a funny funnel.
Thomas didn't like Edward laughing at his funny funnel, but this time Thomas didn't pump his pistons and race away from Edward as quickly as he could. He chuffed carefully onto Knapford. Then Thomas puffed past some children. The children saw his funny funnel. They were excited. They thought Thomas was going to be part of Mr. Bubble's show. Thomas was surprised. He gave the children an extra loud toot. The children laughed even more. Thomas liked to see the children laughing.
They're laughing at my funny funnel. It makes them happy.
And that made Thomas happy. Thomas steamed back into Knapford. The children cheered.
Well done, Thomas. You haven't spilled one drop of my special bubble liquid, and you're just in time for my show.
Later, the children clapped and cheered at the Mr. Bubbles Clown Show. They had never seen such big bubbles. Then the children spotted that Thomas's funny funnel looked just like Mr. Bubbles' hat.
Thank you, Thomas. The funniest engine on Sodor.
Soon, everyone was laughing, and Thomas most of all. Playtime. All the engines on the Island of Sodor are very happy. They are all pleased to work on the Fat Controller's railway. There is always something new and exciting to look forward to, like the day the famous singer Alicia Botti came to give a concert at the town hall. Thomas met Percy at the washdown. His boiler bubbled with pride.
Hello, Percy. I have a very special. I must meet Alicia Botti at the docks. Then I have to take her straight to the town hall for a grand concert.
That's exciting. I have news too. Someone else is arriving at the docks.
Thomas was puzzled.
Charlie, the new engine.
Thomas hadn't heard about Charlie.
What's so special about Charlie?
He's the favourite engine of the mainland controller. Everyone says he's the most fun engine ever. Even more fun than you, Thomas.
Percy chuffed cheerfully away.
Bumpers and buffers. I don't think any engine is more fun than me.
And Thomas puffed off to the docks, his wheels whirring with worry. Thomas collected Alicia Botti at the docks. Miss Botti looked very grand.
I'm pleased to be traveling with you, Thomas.
Thomas's pistons popped with pride. Then he saw Charlie.
Charlie's smaller than me, and he certainly doesn't look more fun than me.
Hello, are you Thomas?
Yes, I am.
I'm Charlie. I've heard a lot about you.
You have?
The engines on the mainland say you're even more fun than me.
Thomas was surprised. Then the Fat Controller arrived.
Thomas, Charlie has a busy first day. Edward has broken down. Charlie must pick up Edward's trucks of seats from the steamworks. Then he has to collect ice cream from the dairy and red carpet from Knapford Station. If Charlie needs help, I'm sure you will look after him.
Yes, sir.
Yippee! Wanna come with me?
Why?
It'll be fun.
Sorry, I'm busy.
I heard you were a fun engine. Maybe you're not fun at all.
Thomas didn't like being told he was no fun at all.
I'll come with you to the steamworks, and then I'll take Miss Botti to the town hall. I'm sure I have plenty of time.
So Thomas steamed slowly towards the steamworks, and Charlie followed behind. Thomas chuffed carefully to a junction. Miss Botti smiled sweetly from her carriage. Charlie pulled up alongside.
This isn't fun. I'll show you fun. Yippee!
Thomas couldn't let Charlie be more fun than him. He pumped his pistons, bubbled his boiler, and fizzed his firebox. The race was on. Thomas and Charlie roared and raced. Their funnels were fiery. They were soon red-faced. Alicia Botti could not believe her eyes.
My goodness me, this is a surprise. I thought Thomas was steady and slow. What thrills and what fun on the way to my show!
The engines were laughing. The race was such fun.
You're quick and you're speedy, but I'm number one.
With a whoosh and a wheesh, the two engines pulled into the steamworks.
Steady, boys. Who's your friend, Thomas?
Charlie, he's new.
I'm fun.
And I'm Alicia Botti.
Miss Botti, it is an honor to have you visit our steamworks. Kevin!
Sorry, boss.
And while Charlie was coupled up to Edward's flatbed, Miss Botti sang to the steamworks. Then it was time to go.
You are fun, Thomas. Let's go to the dairy.
Thomas knew he should take Miss Botti straight to the town hall, but he didn't want Charlie to think he wasn't fun.
I'm sure I still have time to get Miss Botti to the town hall.
So Thomas and Charlie left for the dairy. Soon, the two engines came to a junction.
Let's puff down there.
We can't. That's a bumpy track.
But it'll be fun.
Thomas wanted to be fun, so he followed Charlie down the bumpy track. Thomas and Charlie bounced and bumped. Alicia Botti judded and jumped. And the couplings jiggered and jiggled, looser and looser. At last, Thomas and Charlie pulled up to the dairy.
That was fun.
And this is even more fun. We must go, Miss Botti. You mustn't be late for the concert.
Bye-bye!
If you were a really fun engine, you would race me to Knapford.
Thomas knew he was late, but he wanted to be really fun.
Just one last race, Charlie.
Thomas and Charlie thundered and roared. Thomas thought he had never puffed so fast.
I'm first.
Let's race again.
Then Gordon whooshed past. He was huffing grandly. He was taking the Fat Controller to the town hall. Thomas gasped.
I'm late. I must whoosh like the wind to the town hall.
Thomas pumped his pistons, and he chuffed away quickly in a cloud of steam.
I mustn't be late! I mustn't be late!
Then there was trouble. Thomas didn't know that his couplings had come loose. Thomas raced on to the town hall alone. Thomas steamed to a stop. His cheeks were redder than James's shiny coat.
Here I am, sir.
The fat controller looked hard at Thomas.
Here you are, Thomas. But where are Annie and Clarabelle? And where is Miss Botty?
Thomas felt terrible. He had been having fun when he should have been really useful.
I'm sorry, sir. I've lost them.
The fat controller boomed.
Then you had better go and find them.
Thomas puffed to a junction. He had looked for Annie and Clarabelle, but he couldn't find them anywhere. Then Charlie chuffed up. He was on his way to the town hall.
Hello, Charlie. I've lost Annie and Clarabelle and Miss Botty. The couplings must have come loose on the bumpy track and snapped when we were racing.
Don't worry, Thomas. I have a good idea.
What's that?
We'll have a race. Whoever finds Annie and Clarabelle first is the #1 fun engine.
Thomas was stern. He didn't think that was a good idea.
No, Charlie. This isn't the time for fun. This is the time for being really useful. I have a very important job to do.
And Thomas huffed away. Thomas chuffed carefully. He was very worried. Then Thomas heard singing. He smiled from buffer to buffer.
That's Miss Botty singing! Hooray!
Thomas found Miss Botty by the bridge. He had never heard anything as beautiful as Miss Botty's singing.
Miss Botty, we must go. I'm sorry I kept you waiting.
And Miss Botty cheerfully waved goodbye as the crowd clapped and cheered. Thomas puffed to the town hall with Annie and Clarabelle. The fat controller was cross.
At last, Thomas. You've made Miss Botty very late.
Not at all, Bertram. Thomas has made me very happy. I've had the ride of my life. So many people to sing to, and such fun.
That made Thomas smile. And so did his fun friend, Charlie. Time for a story. It was a beautiful day on the Island of Sodor. The sun was shining and the birds were singing. Thomas had worked hard all morning. He tooted happily to the children as he chuffed back to Tidmouth Sheds. The fat controller was waiting. He had an important special.
This afternoon, there is to be a special story time for the children at the library. I need an engine to collect the new storybooks from Maithwaite Station and take them to the library.
Thomas wished his hardest that he would be given the special. Listening to stories with the children was his favourite thing to do.
Thomas, you will deliver the special. Make sure the books are at the library on time.
Thomas was excited.
Yes, sir.
And Thomas chuffed cheerfully away. Thomas puffed fast along the tracks.
I mustn't be late for story time. I'll chuff and I'll puff to be there on time.
Thomas steamed into Maithwaite Station.
Hello, Thomas.
I'm here to collect the new storybooks.
We'll have your trucks ready in 2 toots of a whistle, Thomas.
Thomas saw the storybooks piled high in the 2 trucks. There were red books, green books, and blue books. There were big books, small books, square books, and even round books.
They look wonderful.
Soon Thomas was coupled up to the trucks.
I must hurry. I have to deliver the storybooks to the library on time.
Thomas was very excited. He pumped his pistons and puffed quickly out of the station. Thomas didn't wait for the books to be covered. Thomas steamed quickly along the track.
I mustn't be late for story time. I'll chuff and I'll puff to be there on time.
The books began to jiggle and joggle, but Thomas didn't notice. Thomas puffed fast towards the junction. He could see the signal ahead was red.
I don't want to stop. The children are waiting for their special story time.
Then an idea flew into his funnel.
I can take the branch line. I know there aren't any junctions on that.
So Thomas puffed quickly down the branch line. Thomas felt very pleased. He chuffed faster and faster, and the books jiggled and joggled more and more. But Thomas didn't notice.
I mustn't be late for story time. I'll chuff and I'll puff to be there on time.
Thomas raced round a bend. Ahead, there was a sign for works on the track.
Oh, bother. I'm sure the works on the tracks won't stop me.
So Thomas puffed faster and faster. Then there was trouble. Workers were mending the broken track. The broken track was very bumpy. Thomas bumped and jumped. The books jiggled and joggled. Then Thomas hit the biggest bump of all.
Whoa! Cinders and ashes!
The trucks bounced high in the air. They crashed and bashed. They clattered and shattered down to the tracks. Thomas put on his brakes. The books flew high and wide through the air and landed all over Farmer McCall's field.
Oh my! The trucks are broken. The storybooks are all over the field. And the children now won't have their special story time. And it's all my fault. I was in such a hurry to be on time. I didn't want to wait. I should have waited for the books to be covered. And I shouldn't have taken the bumpy branch line. Oh dear. Fizzling fireboxes. What am I going to do?
Thomas looked at the storybooks. The sun was shining on them. The books looked even redder and greener and bluer than they had in the trucks.
The storybooks look so pretty in this field. I wish the children could see them.
Then an idea flew into his funnel.
I'll bring the children to the storybooks. They can have a picnic story time in the sunshine. That really will be special.
So Thomas puffed off to collect the children.
First, I must collect Annie and Clarabelle.
Victor and Kevin were busy at work as Thomas chuffed into the Sodor steamworks.
Hello, Victor. I'm here to collect Annie and Clarabelle. I'm going to take the children to a special picnic story time in the sunshine.
That's a wonderful idea, my friend.
The children will like that. They always have their best time with you, Thomas.
Thomas was pleased Victor and Kevin liked his idea. Later, Thomas huffed happily out of the steamworks with Annie and Clarabelle. Thomas puffed proudly up to the library at the town hall. The children were waiting. They were very surprised to see Annie and Clarabelle instead of trucks of storybooks.
Today, I am taking you to an extra special story time. It's a picnic story time in the sunshine. All aboard!
The children had never had a picnic story time. They thought it was a wonderful idea. Thomas blew his whistle and chuffed cheerfully away. Thomas puffed towards the junction. This time, Thomas waited. Then he took the branch line back to Farmer McColl's field. Thomas chuffed slowly and carefully up to Farmer McColl's field.
Here we are, the Picnic Story Time Special.
The children cheered. They could see all the different coloured books in the field. They were very excited. This was the best story time ever. Thomas watched as the children ran onto the field. They each picked up a book and their teacher began to read with them.
This is a story, children, all about a little boy. A little boy who didn't like waiting. He didn't like waiting because he thought he'd miss out on all the good things. But then he found out that good things are worth waiting for.
As the story began, Thomas looked at all the happy children. He smiled his biggest smile.
The children's picnic story time really is worth waiting for.
Toby's new whistle. It was a bright sunny day on the Island of Sodor. All the engines chuffed cheerfully. Everyone was smiling. Everyone except Toby. Toby was at the steamworks. Toby's bell had stopped working. It was covered in rust and didn't clang and chime anymore. It had to stay in the steamworks to be cleaned. So Toby was very sad. Victor didn't have another bell for Toby, so he had to be fitted with a new steam whistle.
Easy does it, Kevin, my friend. Left a little, no, right a little. Perfect. Very good, my friend. How does that feel, Toby?
Toby thought the new whistle felt very strange. It was much bigger than his old bell. He was worried.
I've never used a steam whistle before.
James chuffed into the steamworks with the fat controller.
Hello, Toby. That's a 3-chime steam whistle. I used to have one of those.
This made Toby even more worried.
Is it a good whistle? It's the best. It's the loudest whistle in the whole of Sodor. The loudest? Yes, it's loud and booming. Everyone will hear you coming.
Toby didn't like this. He didn't like loud and booming noises. He liked the ting-a-ling-a-ling of his old bell.
Toby, you must go to Knapford and collect Lady Hatt. She's waiting, so don't be late.
Yes, sir.
So Toby chuffed off to Knapford Station with his new 3-chime steam whistle.
I wish I had my old bell back. I don't know how to use this new loud and booming 3-chime steam whistle.
Then an idea flew into Toby's funnel.
If I puff slowly and carefully, I won't need to use my whistle at all. I can do all my jobs and wait for my old bell to be fixed.
This made Toby feel much happier. Toby steamed slowly through Sodor. Gordon huffed and puffed impatiently behind him.
Out of my way, Toby, you old steam tram! You're making me late!
Later, some cows were on the tracks in front of Toby. He couldn't puff past them.
Go away, cows, please. I need to chuff through.
But the cows didn't take any notice of Toby. They didn't move. They were too busy mooing and chewing. Toby knew what he needed to do. He needed to blow his new steam whistle. But Toby was scared.
I don't want to use this new 3-chime steam whistle. I wish I had my little bell back.
Then another idea flew into Toby's funnel.
I know what I can do. I'll get help.
So Toby reversed down the track to find help. Some farm workers were working in the field.
Excuse me? Hello? Hello?
The farm workers didn't hear Toby. Toby blew steam and rattled his rods. But the farm workers still didn't hear Toby. They were too far away.
Bust my buffers, they can't hear me.
Toby knew he should use his new steam whistle, but he was still too scared.
I wish I had my little bell back.
So Toby puffed on. Somewhere he had to find help. But Toby couldn't find anybody to help him. So he huffed back to the cows.
I do hope the cows have gone back to their field now.
But the cows hadn't gone back to their field. They were still mooing and chewing all over the tracks.
Oh, no!
Toby tried to biff them with his cowcatcher. But they still wouldn't move.
Oh, no, Henrietta. I think we're trapped.
Then there was trouble. Toby heard a noise that made his wheels wobble.
Another engine is coming. They'll crash into the cows.
The engine steamed round the corner. It was Thomas. Thomas was racing like the wind. His firebox was fuming and his boiler was burning brightly.
I have to tell Thomas about the cows. I'll have to use this new whistle.
Toby closed his eyes. His firebox flared and steam blew into his new 3-chime steam whistle. It was the loudest whistle anyone had ever heard on Sodor.
What was that?
It was a 3-chime steam whistle. They're the best whistles ever. I wonder who blew that.
Thomas heard the 3-chime steam whistle.
Cinders and ashes! I must stop!
He applied his brakes. Thomas screeched and skidded. Sparks flew and tracks trembled. Toby didn't dare look.
Phew! Thank you, Toby. Your whistle told me there was trouble ahead.
Toby felt very proud.
I'm pleased I used my 3-chime steam whistle. It was even louder than my bell.
Thomas was proud of his friend Toby. Together with their whistles and wheesh, Toby and Thomas moved the cows from the track. Then Toby remembered Lady Hatt.
Fizzling fireboxes. I've forgotten all about Lady Hatt. She's waiting for me at Knapford. I must puff faster than Gordon to chuff there on time.
Don't worry, Toby. I'll puff with you. We're sure to make it together.
Thomas and Toby huffed and puffed towards Knapford Station. Suddenly, the Fat Controller arrived. He was very cross.
Toby, Lady Hatt waited for a very long time. Now Gordon is taking her home.
Toby was upset. He knew he hadn't been a really useful engine.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Then Toby stopped. He saw something ahead.
There's a fallen tree across the tracks. And Gordon is steaming straight towards it.
Oh, no!
Don't worry, sir. I know just what to do.
Toby bubbled his boiler and pumped his pistons. He blew his 3-chime steam whistle as loudly and as boomingly as he could. Gordon heard Toby's whistle. He applied his brakes and screeched to a halt.
Toby, did you blow that whistle so loudly?
Yes, I did. It was my new 3-chime steam whistle.
For a steam tram, you have a lot of puff. Thank you.
Well done, Toby.
Toby couldn't have felt more proud.
Good job, Toby.
Toby was back at the steamworks. His little bell was ready. It glistened and gleamed as if it were brand new. Toby was happy.
Bye-bye, big new steam whistle.
Victor and Kevin had heard the news that Toby had saved Thomas and Gordon.
Well, Toby, my friend, it sounds as if you had a very busy day. Did you like the new 3-chant steam whistle?
It was very useful.
You can keep it if you like, my friend.
No, thank you. My bell is the best of all.
Thomas and the Runaway Kite. It was a windy morning on the Island of Sodor. It was the day of the Sodor Kite Festival. Soon the sky would be full of kites of all shapes and colours. The engines were very excited about the Kite Festival. Thomas was the most excited of all, because Thomas liked kites best of all. Thomas puffed into Brendam Docks. He had a very special. He was to collect the winner's cup for the Kite Festival. Thomas gasped when he saw the cup.
Oh my! That's the most beautiful cup I've ever seen.
Thomas, you must deliver the winner's cup to Knapford Station. Lady Hatt will give it to the winner at tea time.
Thomas beamed from buffer to buffer.
Yes, sir. I will chuff straight there.
Thomas puffed proudly. He wanted everyone to see that he was pulling the winner's cup. Thomas pulled up to a junction. High in the sky, above the treetops, he saw a kite.
Fizzling fireboxes. What a wonderful kite. I hope I'll see it again.
Thomas huffed and chuffed to the top of Gordon's Hill. Then he gasped.
There's that wonderful kite again.
The kite belonged to the Fat Controller's grandchildren. They wanted to win the cup at the Kite Festival. Charlie puffed up.
Look at that kite swoop through the air!
Look, there's Thomas!
Suddenly a gust of wind pulled at the kite. The kite flew up, and away. The Fat Controller's grandchildren watched. They were very sad. Thomas wanted to help them.
Don't be sad. I'll chase after your kite and bring it back to you.
This made the children very happy.
I'm the fastest engine on Sodor. I can catch up with your kite.
I'll help you, Thomas.
No, thank you, Charlie. I'm much faster than you. I can chase this kite all by myself.
So Thomas didn't go straight to Knapford with the winner's cup. He chuffed off, chasing the Fat Controller's grandchildren's runaway kite. The wind blew the kite far down the tracks. Thomas whooshed and wheeshed. His boiler bubbled, his coal crackled.
I must keep up with the runaway kite. I'll puff and I'll huff with all of my might. I'm the fastest engine on Sodor.
Then the wind blew the kite out of sight.
Where has the kite gone?
Hello, Thomas. You're huffing hard.
Hello, Edward. I'm chasing the Fat Controller's grandchildren's kite.
How exciting. Can I help?
No, thank you, Edward. I'm the fastest engine on Sodor. I can chase their kite all by myself.
At last, Thomas caught up with the kite. He was excited. Then, the wind blew the kite another way.
Cinders and ashes! Come back, Mr. Kite, please!
Thomas chased and raced.
I must keep up with the runaway kite. I'll puff and I'll huff with all of my might. I'm the fastest engine on Sodor.
Then the wind blew the kite up over the bridge. Emily was on the bridge. She saw the kite. She was surprised.
Hello, Thomas. Are you chasing that kite?
Yes, Emily. It has blown away from the Fat Controller's grandchildren. I've promised I'll catch it.
Can I help?
No, thank you, Emily. I'm the fastest engine on Sodor. I can chase it all by myself.
And Thomas whooshed on under the bridge. Thomas clattered and clacked.
I must keep up with the runaway kite. I'll puff and I'll huff with all of my might. I'm the fastest engine on Sodor.
What's wrong, Thomas? Your cheeks are as red as James's boiler.
I'm chasing that kite.
Let me help. I can chase it with you.
No, thank you. I can chase this kite all by myself. I'm the fastest engine on Sodor.
So Percy chuffed off, and Thomas puffed on. At last the wind dropped. The kite landed in front of Thomas near a junction. Thomas was pleased.
Bubbling boilers, I've caught up with you now, Mr. Kite.
Thomas whooshed across the junction towards the kite. Then there was trouble. Thomas started juddering and jittering. The flame in Thomas's firebox flickered and fizzled out. Thomas had burned all his coal chasing the runaway kite.
Oh my, oh no! I've run out of coal!
Then the wind blew again. The kite flew high in the sky and was gone.
I can't puff anymore. I can't chase the kite. I'm not the fastest engine on Sodor. I've broken my promise to the children and I haven't delivered the winner's cup to Knapford Station.
Thomas felt terrible.
It's all my fault.
Suddenly, Thomas heard an engine chuffing around the corner. It was Charlie.
What's wrong, Thomas?
I ran out of coal trying to chase the kite.
I thought you were the fastest engine on Sodor.
I'm not. I was silly to think I could catch the kite on my own. Will you help me, Charlie?
Of course I will, Thomas.
Charlie gave Thomas some of his coal. Soon, Thomas's firebox was burning brightly.
Thank you, Charlie. I'm late. I must deliver the winner's cup to Knapford Station. Can you look for the kite, please?
With all my huff and chuff, Thomas.
So Thomas puffed to Knapford with the winner's cup. On his way to Knapford, Thomas stopped at a junction. Percy, Emily and Edward were waiting.
You look sad, Thomas.
I didn't catch the Fat Controller's grandchildren's kite. Will you all help me?
Of course we will, Thomas.
Right away.
With no delay.
Thomas's friends were happy to help him, and Thomas was happy to be helped. Thomas arrived at Knapford Station with the winner's cup. The Fat Controller's grandchildren raced over.
Hi, Thomas.
They hoped Thomas had found their kite.
I haven't found your kite, but all my friends are looking for it now. Come with me.
So the children climbed cheerfully on board. Thomas puffed to a junction. Suddenly, the kite flew in front of Thomas.
There's the kite!
Emily, Percy, Edward and Charlie chuffed to the junction. The kite danced between them. Then, it caught its tail on the signal.
Hooray! We've caught the kite!
The engines tooted, the children cheered.
With the help of my friends, we caught the kite.
And later that day, at the Kite Gala, the Fat Controller's grandchildren's kite danced best of all, as the wind blew it high up in the sky, and Thomas smiled and smiled. Splish, splash, splosh. It had been raining and pouring on the Island of Sodor. The engines were splattered and sploshed with mud. Thomas liked the rain. It splish-splashed on his boiler and pitter-pattered on his paintwork. Thomas and Rosie had biffed and bashed all day at the shunting yards. Now it was time to go.
Come on, Rosie. I'll race you to Tidmouth Sheds.
The two friends puffed along the tracks, straight through a very big puddle.
Whee!
Thomas and Rosie were splashed from footplate to fender in muddy rainwater.
That was fun!
Then an idea flew into Thomas's funnel. Thomas reversed slowly. Then he pumped his pistons.
Here I come, Rosie! Splish, splash, splosh!
That's a good game. Here I come, Thomas! Splish, splash, splash!
Muddy water splattered everywhere. Then the Fat Controller arrived. He had some important news.
Alicia Botti is to sing at a concert in the town hall. The concert will be followed by a grand tea.
That's exciting!
What fun!
Thomas, you must go straight to the washdown. Then you are to collect Miss Botti and myself from Dryall Station. We will be waiting for you.
Yes, sir.
Rosie, you must collect Annie and Clarabelle and take them to Dryall for Thomas.
Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
See you later, Rosie.
And Thomas and Rosie chuffed quickly away. Thomas pulled up at the junction to the washdown. He saw a very big puddle on the other track. Charlie was waiting right by it. He was very muddy.
Splashing Rosie was such good fun. I'm sure Charlie would like my game too. And I'm sure I have time for another puddle before the washdown.
So Thomas didn't take the track to the washdown. He took the track through the middle of the very big puddle.
Here I come, Charlie! Splish, splash, splash!
Bust my buffers! That's a good game!
Thomas huffed happily on.
Hooray! This is fun!
Now Thomas wanted to find more puddles. He couldn't wait to play his game with the other engines. At the next junction, Thomas waited to chuff left to the washdown. Then he saw a very big puddle on the right track. Emily was waiting.
Emily's muddy already. I'm sure she'd like my game. And I'm sure I have time for another puddle before the washdown. Here I come, Emily! Splish, splash, splash!
Muddy rainwater had splooshed all over Emily and all over Emily's flower trucks.
Fizzling fireboxes. I have to take this flour to the bakery to make the cakes for Alicia Botti's tea. Now Thomas has ruined it.
Thomas didn't know he had splashed Emily's flower trucks.
This is fun! Splish, splash, splosh! I'll soon need a wash!
And Thomas chuffed on, chuckling. At the next junction, Thomas waited to chuff to the washdown. Then he saw a very big puddle right beside James.
James is muddy already. I'm sure he'd like my game. And I'm sure I have time for just one more puddle before the washdown. Here I come, James! Splish, splash, splash!
And Thomas steamed away laughing. Muddy rainwater had splooshed all over James and all over the ripe strawberries on his flatbed.
Blistering boilers! These strawberries were for Alicia Botti's cakes. Now they're ruined.
Thomas didn't know he had splashed James's strawberries.
This is fun! Splish, splash, splosh! I'll soon need a wash!
And Thomas puffed on, happily. Thomas chuffed up to the next junction. Now it was getting late.
I know there'll be a very big puddle along the track by the river. I'm sure I have time for one last puddle before the washdown.
So Thomas took the left track that went along the river. Ahead of him, there was a very big puddle.
My! This is the biggest puddle ever! Here I come! Splish, splash, splash!
Then there was trouble. Muddy water flew high into the air and splooshed down all over Alicia Botti and the Fat Controller.
Thomas!
Thomas screeched to a stop and reversed slowly. He saw that he had splish, splash, sploshed Alicia Botti and the Fat Controller.
Cinders and ashes.
Look what you've done to Miss Botty. She's soaked. Also, Thomas, I hear from the dairy manager that you ruined the flour and strawberries for Miss Botty's grand tea. This is a disaster.
Thomas felt terrible. He tried to puff forward, but he couldn't.
Oh, no.
The big puddle had put out his firebox.
This game isn't fun anymore. It's all gone wrong.
Then Thomas heard Rosie's whistle.
Rosie, please help me. I've splish, splash, splashed into trouble.
Oh dear, Thomas. Of course I will. Don't worry.
Rosie heaved and huffed Thomas onto dry tracks.
With my dry coal, Thomas, your boiler will soon be bubbling.
Thank you, Rosie. Now I can't go to collect the Fat Controller and Alicia Botty. Would you take my special for me?
Of course I will. I'll go right away.
Later, Thomas was once more steaming happily. He pulled up at a junction. There was a very big puddle on the right track.
Look at that big puddle. It's perfect for splish, splash, sploshing. No, I'm not going to splish, splash, splosh anymore. I must make sure that Alicia Botty's grand tea is on time.
And Thomas puffed along the left track to the bakery and away from the big puddle. Thomas arrived just as James and Emily had delivered fresh strawberries and flour to the bakery.
Your silly game means we'll be late for the concert.
No, you won't. I'll wait here for the cakes, then I'll deliver them. You can go to the washdown, then you'll both be clean for the concert.
Thank you, Thomas.
Now I'll be shiny and best, and gleam more than the rest.
Thomas puffed in with the fresh strawberry cakes for the grand tea.
You're just in time, Thomas.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry I caused confusion and delay.
Rosie puffed up to Thomas.
I found another puddle. It's perfect for our game. We can play again.
No, thank you, Rosie. I think I've done enough splish, splash, sploshing for one day.
Snow tracks. It was winter time on the Island of Sodor. It had snowed all night. The trees were white, the cottages were white, and even the Fat Controller's railway was white. There was not an engine in sight. At Tidmouth Sheds, the engines looked out. Percy was very excited.
It snowed.
Thomas didn't like the snow.
Bother! I'll have to wear my heavy snowplow.
I don't like snow. You can get stuck in it. Stuff and nonsense. Snow is soft, but I am strong. It won't bother me.
Then the Fat Controller arrived.
Gordon, you must take some trucks to Brendam Docks. They are needed for an important coal delivery. You are a strong engine, but snow is slippery. Puff the long way round. Yes, sir. Thomas, you must deliver bundles of firewood to the stations.
Yes, sir.
And then the Fat Controller left. Thomas puffed with pride.
That's a very special job.
Not as important as mine. I shall go straight to the docks. I shall steam over every hill I come to.
Gordon pumped his pistons proudly.
Puffed the long way round. That means, Gordon, don't go up any hills.
Hills are not too steep for me. I am strong. I am the best.
And Gordon wheeshed out of Tidmouth Sheds. Gordon huffed and he puffed. His smoke was grey against the snowy white countryside. Soon, Gordon came to a hill.
This hill isn't too steep for me. I shall steam over it.
So Gordon thundered up the hill.
I am special. I am the best.
And he chuffed right to the top.
That was easy.
But Gordon found going down the other side wasn't so easy. The rails were icy. Gordon's wheels slipped and slid. He went faster and faster.
Perishing pistons!
Spencer was huffing up the hill. The Duke and Duchess of Boxford were on board. They were having tea.
Slow down, Gordon!
But Gordon couldn't slow down. Slushy snow sprayed from his wheels. Spencer was covered from footplate to fender.
Rattle my rods! I'm as dirty as a ditch!
But Gordon didn't hear as he clickety-clacked on the icy tracks. Gordon came to another hill. It was even bigger.
This hill isn't too steep for me. I shall steam over it.
So Gordon thundered up the hill.
I am special. I am the best.
But the tracks were icy. The snow was deep and the hill was very, very steep. Gordon steamed slower and slower.
Bust my boiler. This is hard work.
Wheel turn by wheel turn, Gordon huffed and puffed to the top of the hill. He felt very pleased.
I am the strongest. I am the best.
But at the bottom of the hill, there was deep, deep snow. The snow flew up all over Gordon's face.
Bubbling boilers, I can't see.
Gordon rattled off the main track and into a siding, straight into the back of some slate trucks. Gordon was covered in thick grey dust.
Oh, the indignity! At least I can see now.
And Gordon huffed on towards the docks. The snow was deeper and deeper and deeper. Gordon could hardly huff through it.
This is hard work.
Now Gordon was at the bottom of Gordon's Hill. Gordon's Hill was the biggest of all, and it was covered in thick, thick snow.
Gordon's Hill isn't too steep for me. I shall steam over it. I am strong. I am the best.
But Gordon didn't feel so strong anymore, and he didn't feel the best. Gordon puffed against the snow.
Snow is soft, and I am strong. It won't bother me.
But the snow wasn't soft. It had become a giant snowball. It grew bigger and bigger. Gordon started to huff slower and slower. He thought his boiler was going to burst.
Oh, my!
Just then, Thomas chuffed up behind Gordon.
Thanks for clearing the tracks, Gordon. Now I can deliver the firewood faster.
Then there was trouble. The giant snowball was too big and too heavy. It started to push Gordon back down the hill.
Look out, Thomas!
Cinders and ashes!
Gordon and his trucks rolled back faster and faster. Thomas chuffed back faster and faster. He slipped into a siding, and Gordon rolled round a bend.
The giant snowball will surely miss us now.
But Gordon was wrong. The giant snowball rolled down the track and crashed and bashed into Thomas.
Help!
Gordon saw Thomas and his truck of firewood lifted high in the air and derailed. Now it was Thomas who looked like a giant snowball. Luckily, no one was hurt. Gordon felt terrible.
I'm not strong, and I'm not the best. It's a disaster.
Gordon steamed slowly to Thomas.
I'm sorry, Thomas. I'll huff my hardest to help you.
Gordon heaved and hauled. He pushed and puffed, but the snow was too heavy. The snow was too thick. Gordon could not chuff through it to help his friend.
I'm not strong enough, Thomas. I'll find Rocky. He's stronger than me.
Gordon found Rocky at Brendam Docks.
Hello, Thomas. I'll have you back on the tracks in no time.
Soon, Thomas was no longer a snowball. He was a bright blue engine again.
Thank you, Rocky. Now I must deliver my firewood. I'm very late. The station masters will be waiting, and they'll be very cold.
I'll help you, Thomas.
What about your very important job?
I delivered my trucks to the docks. Now I can help you with your very important job.
Thomas was happy to have his friends help.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thomas and Gordon chuffed cheerfully through the snow. And when they came to a hill, they always puffed around it. Together, Thomas and Gordon delivered the firewood to all the stations. The station masters were very pleased to see them. At last, Gordon and Thomas puffed home to Tidmouth Sheds. They were tired, but they were happy to have been really useful. Gordon wished grandly.
I have something very important to say. No engine is special, and every engine is best.
Thomas and his friends whistled. They all agreed with Gordon.